Hello, this is Alec, the film critic for the Conway Daily Sun, and this week I am talking with Blake Merriman, an actor and the writer of the recently released independent film Drinking Games, which is available for digital download on iTunes and Amazon, and is also available on DVD from Amazon. And the film is based on a play that Blake wrote called Dorm, and I talked with him about the adaptation process and the differences between the play and the film. So check that out. I'm just curious how the process of sort of changing the tone of the play to the movie, how that came, and where you made those decisions.
Well, I put the movie adaptation in the hands of a much more capable writer, Ryan Geelan. And he actually had the idea of switching to really focus on the thriller aspect. I think that it definitely works for the film. I also think it's much more of a clear-cut way to market the film. Horror thriller is a very popular base category, and people go see all sorts of horror thriller, from high production value to bare budget to home movie.
Right.
So I thought that was a very shrewd move to make. When I wrote the play, I envisioned it as being kind of this dark comedy, but I think that pushing it into thriller and kind of playing with some of those aspects, which I was kind of unaware that I was doing as I was writing it, but they're really there. There's the knife in the beginning. There's the setup is very kind of like a horror story.
Right, people locked in a room, basically.
Yeah, and with a monster.
Yeah.
It was all there. It was just Ryan. It took Ryan to really say, "Hey, look at it this way."
Right, and it's a very relatable monster. It's the date rapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
And what I liked about it is that it is a college film that addresses the same thing a lot of college films do, the partying and everything, but it shows the very dark side of it. And most films about college just show the fun, and the drinking is all. It's just so much fun. But here, there is a very dark side to it that is being addressed.
Yeah, I feel like there's this razor-thin line between the party, most of the time being like the generic, party, good time, everyone got into trouble, but everyone had fun. And the reality, which I actually saw a little bit of in college, where people, through hazing or binge drinking, get alcohol poisoning, and they almost die. The line between life and death in those situations is razor thin, and so it's just amazing how often it ends up just being okay.
Right.
And I think that's what makes it just be this culturally perpetuating phenomenon in college, is the kind of excessive behavior, because most of the time they end up okay. They're young, they're healthy, there's a hospital nearby, everyone's looking out for them, but that's what plays well in traditional movie versions of those scenarios. But I like taking stuff and really holding the iron to it, the hot iron to it, and saying, well, what could really happen if these crazy things really happen? What is the worst case scenario here?
Mm-hmm.
Someone could end up dead. Someone could end up raped. Someone could end up emotionally scarred for the rest of their life.
I don't know if you had anything to do with the rewriting, but kind of refocusing it to be sort of this, and it's kind of one of the tragedies of college, is the miscommunications, and how somebody, you might, you have sex with somebody, and then you just, for whatever reasons, you get embarrassed, and these miscommunications, and the line of dialogue, and I don't think it was in the play, I think it was only in the film, of, I wish I could have met them 10 years later. Just because with 10 years later, I would have been so much more mature, because at 18, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah. It's those tragic situations where you're given a gift, and you don't have the skills or the ability in your current state to really deal with that in an appropriate and responsible and effective way. I have to give credit to Ryan for that, because most of the rewriting was his. I'd say the first 2/3 roughly of the screenplay are pretty much verbatim. I mean, you read the play, so you already.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was some tightening of scenes, but for the most part, it was verbatim.
Yeah, really good tightening too. I have to give Ryan great credit. He has a great editing eye, and he really sharpened things up a lot.
What was the impetus to write it in the first place?
Well, I've always been interested in college and that world. I like worlds, and college is definitely a very specific world to play in, and it has its own rules and its own systems and things like that. It's also really great because a lot can happen in a dorm room, and you have this little space with two little beds and two little drawers, and all sorts of things happen in that room, because that's the one room that two people use for like both of their college experience, especially at Northwestern, which is where I went. And there was snow in wintertime. I mean, we started late and we ended late. So a lot of the school year was spent in wintertime. Winter in Illinois, near Chicago, is epic and fierce and long. So a lot of the parties and a lot of the socializing would happen either in the cafeterias, near the classes, or in dorm rooms, especially on weekends. So that already interested me as like a place to set a story. Then I was inspired by, you saw The Graduates.
Yes.
So those actors I wanted to use again. We did use like Nick Vergara, Mike Panaccio, Rob Bradford, and I wanted to really write characters for us that really were a shift from the characters that we played in The Graduates. And so I was writing for those characters. And from that, I had this great idea, because Rob Bradford is genuinely a really incredibly nice, genuine, heartfelt person. And there's something about my lizard brain that just doesn't buy that.
Right.
You want to think that, okay, well, deep down, there's something really awful about him. So I just gave that to him. I gave that gift to him. I wanted to see when do we find out that the nice guy is really just the most horrible person in the world? I think it comes through in the play a little bit more. He's kind of like through and through kind of a nasty guy. It just gets nastier and nastier in the movie. But to really like have somebody who keeps pushing the limits of what he can get away with his like charm and good looks and charisma, in the face of all these other kind of like more naive people who are either really into him and want to follow him, or are totally not into him and don't want to have anything to do with college. Another theme I really liked playing with is the idea of the appearance of something versus the reality of something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just coming off of the whole nudity thing. Rob Bradford's character, he's a really nice guy, but what if he's really evil? And I liked playing with the idea of, well, what if there's this kind of stick in the mud character? What's the antithesis to that? It's a stick in the mud who doesn't like to party and is a downer, but ends up being the hero, ends up having like the heart of gold, ends up being the savior, the one responsible adult person who does adult things. And then caught in the middle of that is the Sean character, who has his loyalty to his good friend and knows that his friend is a good guy, but at the same time wants all the stuff that Newbie, this charismatic, empowered, personification of all that college promises can offer.
Right.
And he gets caught in the middle and, ends up having that pull between the two.
Thanks to Blake for sitting down and talking with me. The complete interview will be appearing on my show Lost in Movies, which is on Valley Vision Channel 3 sometime in the next couple weeks, and that'll also show up on the internet. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, this is Alec, and come back next week for another Real Thoughts.